Hey everyone, I'm Anya Esma, and today I want to speak about the Suit of Swords because we've probably all drawn the Ten of Swords before and we're in a panic because it's a very negative card, just like all of the other swords cards. And the perception is that this negativity basically dominates the whole spread, and I want to talk about that. So if you're generally scared of the Suit of Swords, if you're scared of the meanings, if you don't know how to read them, if you're in shock every time you see them, if you don't like the brutal or intense imagery, let me reframe all of that for you. And we will take a look together at how you can instead read them in a better way, or how you prioritize what you are actually reading in the card rather than focusing on that first fear or impulse of, oh no, that's a negative card. It's no wonder we're scared of it because the Suit of Swords has images like this, and like this. So as I said, quite brutal and intense. It has a reputation of being the most scary suit, the most intense, challenging suit. It's about trauma, it's about mental struggle, it's about difficult decisions, maybe cutting people out. And all of that contributes to it being perceived very negatively. So in this video, I want to talk about the possible meanings of the cards that are maybe a bit more positive, or how you can reframe it so that you're not as scared and can read them more confidently. Before you watch this video, do feel free to write in the comments how you feel about the swords, how you feel when the Ten of Swords comes up, the Nine of Swords, whatever it is. And then comment how you feel after the video, because I would love to hear if this changed some people's perspectives and made them more confident and more nuanced when it comes to reading the swords. Firstly, the biggest mistake I see people make when they read the swords is that they take the imagery too literally. Think instead of the elemental energy that the swords stand for, because as you probably know, the Suit of Swords, God, if I mix up the word suit and swords in this video, please forgive me. If you are looking at the swords, of course, you're looking at air energy, as you know. So air energy is about intellect, it's about the mind, it's about communication. It can be about words, spoken or written. It can be about mental processes rather than physical processes. And all of that is what air energy is. So always keep in mind when you see that brutal imagery, we are dealing with mental and intellectual matters here. And it's possibly just a metaphor for that. It's a metaphor for what's going on in the mind. So do not expect the imagery to physically manifest. Do not think that the Ten of Swords means that something super bad is going to happen, that life will end for you or for others. It's a metaphor. So keep that in mind when you see those cards. Now, of course, still the cards are about mental struggles, which can be equally as scary as physical struggles. If you look at the Nine of Swords and its relation to trauma, for example. The swords are just hanging on the wall representing scary thoughts, scary traumatic experiences you may have had, scary words that people said to you. So it is very real, but it's not physically real in most cases with the swords. The second piece of advice I have for not catastrophizing once the swords come up in a spread is to focus on the numerology instead of the direct imagery. So I have a whole video about numerology. I just re-recorded it finally because everyone hated the old one. Well, they loved it because it has like 20,000 views at this point, but they hated the audio quality and kept saying that. So I re-recorded it, because that was like 4 years ago that I recorded that video. So now the new one is out. I will link that down below, and that will help you, because in this video I'm not going to go too deep into what the 1 through 10 of the swords means specifically, but it can help you to know the numerology and focus on the numbers rather than focusing on the scary imagery. Just as a few examples, the Ace of Swords is sword energy in its purest form. It's intelligence, intellect, logic, creativity with words. being good at communication. So that's a quite positive meaning. And the Ten of Swords is then about the end of a cycle, maybe the end of a mental cycle, the end of a cycle of processing a certain traumatic event that you had. So it's not necessarily negative once you just focus on those numbers. It is kind of a Tower-esque moment, of course, of having to readjust, but it can just mean that you have to sort of take a fall before you can land on your feet again. That's the Ten of Swords. Now, the third point I want to go more deeply into is look at the images as metaphors. I already mentioned this in the first point, and I want to expand on that now. So how can you look at it as a metaphor? What can the swords in the card stand for? Ignoring all of the turmoil, all of the negativity around them. So the swords can be seen as words, which are either just in your mind, or they were spoken, or they were written, anything pertaining to words. They can stand for a situation of communication, a conversation you had. They can stand for thoughts. They can stand for opinions, either your own or other people's, or they can stand for logical processes that need to happen or that have happened. So if you look at it like that, if you write down what the swords, the literal swords in the cards can mean, you can think about that the Ten of Swords maybe just means that you were very, very hurt by someone else's words, or that you hurt someone else with certain words, or with certain conclusions you drew about them, or a certain opinion you gave to them. So that reframes it in a metaphorical way, which makes it a lot less scary a lot of the time. As a fourth point, I want to speak about some more possible meanings of the swords cards. So of course, they can indicate challenges that you need to overcome and decisions you need to make, but it can also just pertain to words that you need to speak, or the need for you to gain more clarity about a certain situation. It can also mean making a logical decision rather than ruminating and keeping on repeating, especially if, for example, you have in a spread the Four of Cups, which is about ruminating, about thinking, and then you have a swords card next to it. Possibly it could mean that you need to make a decision and you need to come to a conclusion rather than keeping on wallowing in these emotions over and over. The swords can also be taken as a sign that you have to let go of certain illusions. The swords are basically the opposite of delusion and of illusion. They cut clear through those illusions and delusions. They are about logic, and they are also about taking accountability for your words and for their effects. That's what I meant when I said maybe in the Ten of Swords, your words hurt someone else. Nine of Swords can actually be the same thing. Maybe your words traumatize someone, or someone else's words traumatize you, or a conversation, or an opinion, or a judgment. Because as you know, in the Judgment card, the swords are also very prevalent. So they also have to do with judgments. And if you take all of that together, it's basically about letting go of this idea that words and judgments and opinions and thoughts do not have power. The swords are the ultimate proof that all of those things hold power, and you need to become aware of that and deal with that. So that's what I see mostly in this suit. It's a call to become very clear on which thoughts, opinions, judgments, words hurt you, have hurt you, hurt others, and to reflect on that, reflect on your communication, reflect on your illusions and delusions that you might have. Now, in the same vein, of course, you can also see it as a sign to improve your communication, or change your communication, or change your mind and your opinion, or your judgment, your discernment about something. The swords cards can also relate to all of that. I hope you're taking notes if you're interested in that, because I keep listing all of these things. So yeah, see it as a sign for changing your mind, changing your communication. And I think that's really beautiful. Once you understand that, the swords become so much easier. Once you understand it's not about physically being hurt by these swords, it's about the mental space. Of course, it also depends on how comfortable you are in your mental space. I am quite comfortable, so it's easier for me to say that. So for me, it's a relief. For others, it may not be. So depending on that, it differs. And then another meaning is, of course, challenge and conflict. Don't shy away from that. If the swords really do mean that, acknowledge it. Don't try to push that away and be deluded about it. Of course, they can be about difficulties, about having to take steps to take a logical solution, to cut people out, or anything like that. It can pertain to that. The fifth piece of advice I want to give in order to not catastrophize as soon as you see a swords card in a spread is look at the context. Do not focus as the card of the swords as the most important and worst card in the spread. They are what they are, and all the other cards are what they are. So if you look at a spread and you have cups and wands and swords, just because there's a 10 of swords, that's not the most important card necessarily. Look at everything else. Look at how the cups are related to emotions, how the pentacles might be related to a practical solution or to financial gain, or the wands might be about spiritual and personal growth. And the swords are not the only thing to look at. Of course, do follow your intuition. You know, sometimes we do have this hunch that the swords card is the most important. And that can happen, but don't assume it by default. Now, my sixth and final piece of advice for you, if you are scared of the swords, is to build a relationship with the cards and trust your intuition with them. What I mean by that is, if you're really, really scared of them, maybe for a whole week, just take the swords out of your deck, all 10 cards, or you can also include the court cards if those might be scary to you as well, but often people are less scared of the court cards than of the 1 through 10 swords. Take them out, mix them, shuffle them, and draw one for each day and see how it relates to your day. And that kind of takes away your fear as well. Sit down at the end of the day and see, hey, this is how whatever happened in my day relates to the 10 of swords, relates to a new beginning, relates to maybe having to cut someone out of your life, or maybe it's something less dramatic than that. And then you realize that it's not always that intense. It's not always that bad to draw a swords card, because a lot of the time the meaning is a lot less dramatic than we might assume based on the intense and brutal imagery. So by doing that, you will allow your intuition to come in when you do a normal reading with all 78 cards. As soon as the sword card comes out, you are now able to see maybe the positive in it. See maybe, oh, it just means I need to make a quick decision here. It means I have to change my words here. It means I wasn't true to my word with someone else, or someone else wasn't true to me. And then you can reframe them in a way that's not always, okay, 7 of Swords means someone is cheating on you or scamming you. 10 of Swords means there's something dramatic happening. You have to cut someone out, or someone is cutting you out of their life. 9 of Swords means you have all this deep, deep trauma that is still troubling you. No, it can be a lot less dramatic. But I know that that's mostly what we think about with the swords. So I hope that this video helped reframe them a little bit, so that you can also see their more nuanced meanings and not just those scary, scary big meanings that we've mostly been taught by books or by other videos. So your own intuition, once you spend your everyday life with the cards, can add so much more than just the textbook meanings that are often intense. And I hope that that helps you as well. So these were my 6 tips for reframing the swords and getting along with them. So I hope that next time they come up in a reading, you feel a lot more comfortable reading them. You feel better about them. You can also refer back to this video or my numerology video, or one of my many single card tarot videos. I've probably talked about the swords cards there as well. I think I've done one about the 3 of Swords at least. I'm not sure, but just search YouTube for it. And if you want, you can also take a look at my court cards series, where I explain court cards in detail. So there's a lot of resources. Thank you so much for watching this one. I hope it helped you. Tell me your opinion in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon.